The seeds for this business were planted a long time ago, though I certainly didn't know it. I left Connecticut to attend college in Richmond, Virginia. After graduating, I took a job here and soon discovered the Fan District and Monument Avenue. It was unlike anything we have in New England. New England is full of beautiful homes and farms and clapboard buildings, but the Fan District is from another time period with a charm all its own. I took an apartment here and loved my lifestyle. After marrying my husband, we bought a house a few blocks away and renovated that. I quickly adopted my new hometown and learned I had a real love for old buildings, old ways of doing things, and even old cobblestone covered alleyways. We made our home in the Fan for several years before we moved to the suburbs when I was expecting our first child, where, oddly enough, we bought a 1914 clapboard cottage similar to those found in Connecticut. Like many women, I have fond memories of visiting sewing stores with my mother. She taught me how to sew, which proved invaluable to me as I made many of my own clothes when I was young, and then onto curtains and table covers for my apartment and then my home, and then eventually making clothes for my young daughter. At one point I decided I was going to wallpaper one of our bathrooms with vintage dress pattern envelope covers. However, after a while that proved far too daunting for me. It was a mathematical nightmare. But I just loved the images and thought about a way to get them out of those shoeboxes that they were stored in. I then came up with the idea to make totes. I began selling those totes at craft shows and art shows, and only when I participated in a vintage show did I realize that was my audience. So I began selling my totes at shows all over, from Florida clear up to Minnesota and over to New Hampshire and many states in between. I soon began adding a few other things that were appropriate to go with the vintage images on my bags, and a friend then told me about the Country Living Fairs. I was pleasantly surprised to be admitted to the show in Atlanta the first time I applied. The other shows are held in Ohio, upstate New York, and Nashville, Tennessee. At each fair, I look forward to seeing the friends I've made there over the years. Here is Rachel Hardage Barrett, the editor-in-chief of the magazine. The Country Living Fairs are large events with over 200 vendors put on by Country Living magazine. A far bigger production than I had ever been a part of before, with the exposure and marketing power of that can only come with a national magazine. About half the people who attend have come a far distance for maybe a girl's getaway or a weekend away with their husbands. And for these big shows, I soon realized I needed way more merchandise. I began actively seeking items that are from the same era as my totes. My best resources are homes to several generations, or churches, schools, factories, even barns that are being torn down or just no longer used. I have a passion for everyday, ordinary items from a simpler time that are no longer used, like a clothesline bag for clothespins, or souvenir pennants, or a kitchen stool, or even a funky side chair that just really needs a new cover. These are not heirlooms and they are not antiques. These are the kinds of things I buy. I fix them up, maybe make them into something else in my workshop, and then sell them ready to go for your home. I chose the name HouseMade because, one, everything I buy is truly vintage. It's not made to look old, it is old, and it's been used. And secondly, everything I buy, everything I work on is made by me right in my workshop here in Richmond, Virginia. All you need to remember is, made at my house, made for your house.